a city in the southern state of Victoria, Australia. It is home to around 5 million inhabitants. It is estimated that with the current rate of population growth, Melbourne will surpass Sydney by 2030 to become the largest city in Australia. Opening out from the shores of Port Phillip Bay to the Midlands, Melbourne regularly features in the top rankings of the most livable cities in the world. The Yarra River runs right through the heart of Melbourne, and it was founded on its banks in 1835. Melbourne is the educational and cultural capital of Australia and is home to some of the best-known landmarks in Australia, such as the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the National Gallery of Victoria, and the World Heritage Listed Royal Exhibition Building. Melbourne Airport, also known as Tullamarine, is the second busiest airport in Australia, and the Port of Melbourne is Australia's busiest seaport. Melbourne's main metropolitan rail terminus is Flinders Street Station, which opened in the year 1854 as Melbourne's and Australia's first railway station. The current station building was completed in 1909 and is one of Melbourne's biggest cultural attractions. Flinders Street Station is located on the corner of Flinders and Swanston Streets and has platforms and structures that stretch over 2 city blocks. Flinders Street was listed on the Victorian Heritage Register in 1982. Flinders Street Station has 13 platforms to cater to Metropolitan and some V-Line services to Gippsland. Platforms 14, 15 and 16 of Princes Bridge Station were merged with Flinders Street in 1980. The station has 3 concourses which link the platforms. The main concourse is at the east end of the station and has direct access to all platforms via escalators, stairs and lifts. This is a view of the Yarra River, which flows right through Melbourne's CBD. Southern Cross Railway Station, formerly known as Spencer Street Station, is Melbourne's second railway terminal in Docklands. The station opened in 1859 when the Williamstown line was constructed into the city. The station is the terminus for regional Victoria V-Line services and interstate trains such as the Overland Train to Adelaide and the XPT to Sydney. The station has a coach and skybus terminal underneath the Spencer Outlet shopping complex for V-Line coaches and skybus services to Melbourne Airport. The station is also served by Metro Trains Melbourne's suburban trains which depart from platforms 9 to 14. Southern Cross Station has 16 platforms and platform 8 south. The new station building was completed in 2006 and was renamed Southern Cross. Melbourne has the world's largest urban tram network with 250 plus kilometers of tram tracks, 493 trams, 24 routes, 1,763 tram stops, and 12 tram depots operated by Yarra Trams. Trams have operated in Melbourne since 1885. Melbourne trams have W classes, Z classes, A classes, C1 classes, C2 classes, D1 classes, D2 classes, and Melbourne's newest tram, the Bombardier Transportation Flexity Swift E classes. The E-Class trams first entered service in 2013 to run on routes 96, 86 and 11. The B and Z class trams were both built by Cummins, and the Z class trams first entered in 1975, and the B-class trams first entered in 1984. And the B-class trams were the first articulated and AC trams in Melbourne. The A-class trams entered in 1983 and they didn't feature AC like the Z-classes. The W-class trams first entered in 1923 and originally operated on the full tram network. But now they operate on Route 35, City Circle, from 1994. The CityLink was the biggest rail project in Melbourne's rail history. It has 3 underground stations at Flagstaff, Melbourne Central and Parliament. It started in 1971 when the Melbourne Underground Rail Loop Act was passed and construction started straight away. The CityLink opened between 1981 and 1985. The Burnley and Caulfield Tunnels and Museum Station opened first in 1981. The Clifton Hills services started later in 1982. Parliament Station opened in 1983 with the Northern Tunnel, and Flagstaff Station opening in 1985. Museum Station was renamed to Melbourne Central and serves the Melbourne Central Shopping Centre. This is how Flinders Street Station looks like in 2020. And this is how Flinders Street Station used to look like in the 1850s. This is how Southern Cross looks like in the 2020s, and this station is the main hub for regional Victoria services. Originally, Southern Cross used to be called Spencer Street, so this is how it used to look like in the 1880s. Today, we're going to see the evolution of Melbourne's railway network and how it all began. The first part of Melbourne's railway network opened in September 1854 with a new line built from Flinders Street to Port Melbourne. The Melbourne and Hobson's Bay Railway Company built its own railway from St Kilda to Flinders Street. This is what Port Melbourne Station looks like in the 1850s, and this is the heritage listed building. They crossed the Sandhurst Bridge, which crosses the Yarra River, and this is what it looks like now. This is St Kilda Station in the 1880s. And that is the old station building. Melbourne's first country line opened in 1857 between Newport and Geelong. In 1859, Victoria Railways opened a line between Williamstown and Spencer Street. Also in 1859, the second country line opened from Spencer Street to Sunbury. In 1859, the Windsor Loop line opened from St Kilda to Brighton. In 1859, the Melbourne and Suburban Railway Company opened a line between Prahran and Princess Bridge. In 1860, the Princess Bridge to Prahran line was extended to Windsor, connecting the St Kilda to Brighton line. A new line opened between North Melbourne and Essendon by the Melbourne and Essendon Railway Company. This is Essendon Station in 1908. 1 year later, they built a branch line from Newmarket to Flemington Racecourse. In 1861, the Melbourne and Suburban Railway Company built a branch line from Richmond to Hawthorn. The Geelong to Ballarat line opened in 1862. The Sunbury Line was extended to Bendigo and reached Echuca by 1864. This is Sandhurst Station, and this is Bendigo Station now. In 1865, the tracks were extended onto the street from Flinders Street, joining Princes Bridge Station. The Windsor Loop line closed in 1867 and replaced by the direct line from Windsor to South Yarra. In 1872, the S&M line was extended to Broadmeadows. It was extended to Albury and Wodonga by the New South Wales Government Rail. In 1879, tracks finally connected Flinders Street to Spencer Street. In the same year, a new line was built between Caulfield and Pakenham. This is Traralgon Station in 1905. The Frankston Line was starting to get built in 1881 between Caulfield and Mordialloc. 1 year later, the Frankston Line was completed. This is how Frankston Station looks like in the 1900s, and this is now Frankston Station in 2020. In 1882, the Hawthorn Line was extended to Camberwell and then Lilydale in 1883. In 1884, a new rail line was built from between North Melbourne and Coburg. The Brighton Beach Line was extended to Sandringham in 1887. This is Sandringham Station in the 1900s, and this is Sandringham Station in 2017. A two-station branch line from Hawthorn to Kew opened in the same year. This is Kew Station in 1906. In 1888, the Frankston Line was extended to Baxter. A private line was opened from Newport to Altona in the same year. The Inner Circle Line was built between Royal Park and Heidelberg, with a branch line going to Fitzroy. This is North Carlton Station's building. The South Gippsland Line opened between Dandenong and Cranbourne in 1888. The Melbourne to Ballarat direct line was built in 1889. In the same year, the Baxter Line was extended to Stony Point and a new branch line opened from Baxter to Mornington. This is Stony Point Station in the 1890s, and this is what it looks like now. A new branch line opened between Clifton Hill and Whittlesea. In the same year, the Coburg Line was extended to Somerton. The Lilydale Line was extended to Hillsville in the same year. This is Hillsville Station in 2009. A new branch line opened from Ringwood to Upper Fentry Gully in the same year. The Outer Circle Line opened between Oakley and Fairfield. This is the Chandler Bridge, which crosses the Yarra River, and this is a map of the Outer Circle Line. In 1890, the Altona Line closed. The Geelong Line was extended to Warrnambool by 1890. The South Gippsland Line was extended from Cranbourne to Port Albert by 1892. The Outer Circle Line closed in sections between 1893 and 1897. In 1895, a new branch line Burnley to Darling. The outer circle section between Camberwell and Ashburton reopened in 1899. In 1900, the Deepdene Dasher shuttle train opened between East Camberwell and Deepdene. A narrow gauge line opened between Upper Fintry Gully and Gembrook in the same year. In 1901, a direct link was built between Victoria Park and Princess Bridge. In 1901, a new branch line was built between Lilydale and Warburton. The Heidelberg line was extended to Eltham by 1902. The section between Coburg and Somerton closed in 1903. The Eltham line was extended to Hurstbridge by 1912. This is a Tate train in 1983. The Coburg line was extended to Faulkner and full train services were extended there. The Altona line reopened in 1917. A new branch line was built between Bitton and Red Hill in 1921. This is Red Hill Station in the 1920s. In 1927, the Deepdene Dasher shuttle train closed. The Darling line got extended to Glen Waverley by 1930. The Ashburn line was extended to Alamein by 1948. The Bitton to Red Hill line closed in 1953. The Upper Fantry Gully to Gembrook section closed in 1954 due to a landslide. The Kew line closed in 1957 due to a tramway competition which led to a loss of passengers. The Faulkner line was extended to Upfield by 1959. This is a Siemens awaiting its departure at Upfield Station in 2004. The Epping to Whittlesea section closed in 1959. The Upper Fantry Gully to Belgrave section was converted to broad gauge and opened in 1962. This is Belgrave Station in 2006. The Lilydale to Warburton section closed in 1965. The Lilydale to Hillsville line closed in 1980 and has been restored as part of the Yarra Valley Railway. In 1980, Princess Bridge Station was merged with Flinders Street Station as platforms 14, 15 and 16. The Baxter to Mornington line closed in 1981. The Inner Circle line closed in 1981 for freight trains. The City Loop opened in 1985, which was the biggest train project in Melbourne's rail history. The Altona line was extended to Laverton in 1985. The Port Melbourne and St Kilda lines were converted to light rail in 1987. This is how Port Melbourne Station looks like in the 1970s. And this is Northport Station with a Tate train in the background. line closed entirely and the Cranbourne line was electrified by 1995. This is Leongatha Station. In 2012, the Epping line was extended to South Morang. The regional rail link finally opened in 2015 to separate regional trains from the Werribee line. The South Morang line was extended to Mernda in 2018 with 3 new stations at Middle Gorge, Hawkstow and Mernda. And this is a picture of Mernda Station in 2018. Now let's look at track electrification. This is an electric locomotive E1102. In 1918, the first electric train ran a test trip between Newmarket and Flemington Racecourse. Then the Essendon and Sandringham lines were electrified, with full services starting the next day between Sandringham and Essendon. In 1920, the Burnley to Darling line, the Williamstown line, the Branch to Altona and the Faulkner line were followed electrification. The Broadmeadows Reservoir, the Bendigo line to St Albans and the intersections of the Hurstbridge line were electrified by 1921. The Ringwood, Dandenong and Frankston lines were electrified in 1922. Electrification from Heidelberg to Eltham was completed in 1923. The Ashburton line was electrified by 1924. Electrification from Ringwood to Lilydale was complete in 1925, as well as the branch line from Ringwood to Upper Fentry Gully. The whole Hurstbridge line was completely electrified by 1926. The Burnley to Darling line got extended to Glen Waverley and electrified by 1930. The Ashburton line was extended to Alamein and electrified in 1948. Between 1954 and 1956, the line was extended from Dandenong to Pakenham and electrified. The line to Uckfield was electrified by 1959. The Upper Fentry Gully to Belgrave section was converted to broad gauge and electrified by 1962. Electrification to Epping on the Mernda line was complete by 1964. The Werribee line was electrified in 1983. In 1985, the city loop became fully operational and the Altona line was electrified and extended to Laverton. In 2002, electrification was extended from St Albans to Sydenham. In 2007, electrification was extended from Broadmeadows to Craigieburn. In 2012, the section between Epping and St Mirren opened and electrified, and the line between Sydenham and Sunbury was electrified. 2018, the extension to Melbourne Station was opened and electrified. My next video will be the future of Melbourne's train system. Please like this video, share and subscribe to my channel.